Hey, I just wanted you guys to keep in mind something about the original Xbox controllers. There's a bunch of different third-party ones out there, and the original Xbox was a very unique system because it was basically just a computer. But I want to say, if you can't find a Mad Catz controller, which you probably won't be able to, stick with the original. Right now, I'm testing out the Duke controller, at least the analogs. It's a big controller. I like it. It fits in my hand. Everything worked out perfectly for me, and I like the sticks. The aiming is very good, right? The movement, not so much, and that's mainly due to the fact that the left analog stick kind of curves off the side. But I just want to show you something with the old school controllers. So the Duke is very responsive when it came to stick motion, and I respect that it came with the console. But I'm going to switch off and show you the other controllers and give you an insight on what I'm talking about here. The aiming is really smooth, and you'll see what I'm talking about in just a second here. This controller you're looking at is the S model controller, which shipped everywhere else in the world in 2002. And to be honest, I'm not comfortable with it. It's the best controller for mobility, and it does everything that the Duke doesn't do. But my problem with it is it seems like I don't know what they did when they manufactured these, unless this is just a used older controller. The dead zone in the curve for the controller is seems like it's a lot more sensitive, so I can't make those fine movements. But if you move very softly, it seems like it works out. And I'd say get this over anything, because more than likely you're not going to notice it, especially if you're playing on a CRT, which is the best way to play. Honestly, I was playing on a flat screen, so that's my fault. I'm going to experience these kind of delays and such, but this is the better option. Now I'm going to show you the controller that I despise. And I only say that because, not because it's a third party controller, but this controller literally is just terrible. You'll see what I'm talking about. This is the old school controller. And yes, literally it's called the old school controller. I bought it on Amazon a while back because I needed a replacement controller, and because I just didn't want to use the Duke. And it's the Type S, and it's literally the worst controller. You'll notice that it is extremely sensitive, and I can't make those fine movements. Luckily, this is Halo 2 on the original Xbox. The aim assist makes up for a lot of stuff, but in multiplayer situations, I found myself being very uncomfortable using the controller. Only thing responsive about it is the buttons, but the sticks, however, are just way too sensitive. You can't do anything with these things. I would not recommend buying them, so this is exactly why I wanted to show you this portion of the video. For the first section of this video, I was going to do a run through and show you how this works. So I'm aiming with the old school controller. Everything seems like it's all fine and dandy, but when I try to do specific actions, you'll notice, especially right here when I threw the grenade at the jackals, nothing seemed right. It was all off-putting, and it was weird, and the aim was not there. Even here, it feels like I'm jerking my head around most of the time and just relying on aim assist to carry me because the sticks just don't work. This Elite, for example, I was relying on the aim assist to carry me because any sudden tap, it was almost like using a joystick controller. There was no real input for it, and overall it was just uncomfortable. I couldn't stick with it. And even here, I could not aim at that Elite on the building. The grunts I was struggling to aim at, and I mean, I could only make up for it because I'm used to playing this game, and I'm just used to using controllers. But anybody else probably would not have a good time if they haven't gotten used to everything and how this game works, or any game for that instance. For this part of the video, I managed to do the same run through with the Duke, and I felt a lot more comfortable with the Duke. You can even see it with my movements. I mean, I am missing shots, but everything seems finer. The movement is snappier in terms of where I can aim, or it's smoother actually. And not only do I rely on the aim assist, but I can use what I know, as in how to use a stick, to like think about what I want to do. The other controller was all just check and guess, and I mean, it works if you're doing platformers or fighting games, but for games like this, a lot of the Xbox has a lot of first person and third person shooters, so you want to be able to have those movements down, and I just don't think that you can get those things done with the third party controller, specifically the old school. The Duke was a good option for me specifically because I have bigger hands, and I was more comfortable with the controller because this is the controller that I use, and you can even see that in the gameplay. It translates really well, but overall I have to give it to the S because the movement, and Halo's a big game about movement, and you'll see why. This is the S controller, or the more conventional controller. They released this one everywhere else around the world, like Europe and Asia, because let's be honest, nobody wanted to do. I like it, but what did notice, although this is my preferred controller, and the only reason I say it's the best is because I feel like everybody else would be comfortable with this, right? But just look at the gameplay. There's a lot more movement going on, and even with my hand, like my hand movement, it's faster because, well, it's smaller and you know where everything is. With the Duke, you're constantly reaching across the controller to find a button, and on top of that, the sticks and the triggers for the Dukes are a lot more heavy than the S controller. Personally, I like that. But say someone younger than me, or someone older than me, or someone who hasn't played in a while, you would want to hand them this controller. Not that bogus old school controller that stops working with the bogus tilted sticks. You want to get them this S model, or maybe a Mad Catz controller if you can find that. I'm going to keep recommending this controller because I don't want people going and buying those old school controllers or those busted old plastic cheap things made on eBay. Everybody makes that mistake, even with the GameCube controllers. I've seen those ones without the Nintendo trademark. Everybody makes that same mistake in buying those ugly controllers. Look, they look the same as the OEM controllers, but they're not. You can't go buying things because they're cheaper. I understand. That's literally why I got this when it was cheaper. I just wanted something fast. But it's not good. And I'm going to be the one to let you know that it's not good. Not everybody's going to go and buy bogus stuff and then let you know it's not good. Sometimes. I mean, a lot of people bought the GT 1030. But I wanted to make this now because it seems like there's a lot of people getting back into playing their old games. And I've been doing it for a while. It's just like, you don't want people to get gimped. A lot of people are losing money buying these cheap products. And if you buy cheap products, they're not going to last long. The old school controller I bought from Amazon that I will leave a link to because somebody might want to check it out. It actually stopped working after, I don't think I used it for 2 months. And the right stick started to drift off and make its own movements. But those are some things I want you guys to consider when getting a new controller. Specifically for, like, say your GameCube 360, any older console, any third-party seller that's still making those controllers, you want to look into what you're getting before you buy it. And this is mainly just what I think about the controllers, but it also gives you some insight on what you're purchasing. So if you want to see more things like this, then let me know in the comments. Like or dislike, it doesn't matter. Any feedback is good. It's just nice to be a part of a community of people that are dedicated. And also I want to thank what's his name? That's crap. I forgot the modder's name. I'll put his name in the description. The modder actually made the patch for the games, the HD games, on the original Xbox. I don't know how I didn't have his name up before I started recording, but I'm gonna put him in the description. Because of that, I'm able to run this game in HD on my original Xbox, and it runs nicely. It's 40p. I mean, you can do that natively, but there's a patch as well, and that's what I'm using to run this, and I'm recording it through the Elgato. But other than that, I'm gonna call it, and I'm gonna just let the video end. But I appreciate you watching. See you next time.